Shalom. 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 Call hello Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rekakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of great millstone. All right, they told me this truth. And who rule well? This is not mine. Please excuse my voice, or lack thereof. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. It says, and this is something that we tried to tell you. All right, great millstone, all right. We as a people that were brought to this country were never free, all right. But you didn't want to believe us, so maybe you'll believe them, all right. It says, and this is the question, how did the slavery clause get into the 13th Amendment, all right. You see this guy here on crutches, on a crutch, and it says Alexander Stephens, who had been vice president of the Confederacy during the Civil War, is later, in about 1875, escorted by a man freed from slavery by the Confederacy's loss. Stephens is most remembered for his cornerstone speech delivered March 21st, 1861. Noting that the U.S. Constitution rests upon the assumption of the equality of races, he says of the Confederacy, our new government is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. Stephens and Lincoln had been friends when they served in Congress together before the war, giving you some insight as to the mindset of Lincoln also, all right? We keep telling you, this man just devised a way in order to keep doing what he was doing while fooling a people. Think of the hatred that has to be involved. Putting pen to paper, telling a people that they're free when they're not. All the while trying to maintain the illusion, but at the same time doing any and everything to kill you, all right, to make your life miserable. Think about that, all right? And this is by Ronald Brooks, all right? It says, dear friends and comrades, please read the following information that helps explain the legislative intent, going into the mindset of these devils, of the 13th Amendment to perpetuate slavery under the guise of criminal justice. Now let's go look up that word. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Guise, it says outward appearance or aspect, semblance, false appearance, pretense, mode of dress, garb. That's what we've always said too. Slavery, just changed, put on another suit, but it's still a slavery. All right. Let's see. Let's go into dictionary.com. It says general external appearance. All right, they put on the front like, yes, we freed the Negro. And all the while, what came of that? After that, you get into the, well, it's going to say that. I'm not going to jump ahead of the article. Aspect, semblance, all right? An old principle, exactly to the point. An old principle in a new guise. Nothing's ever changed. He brought us over here to serve slavery, and we're still serving slavery. Our people's minds just shut off because you think slavery, you think chattel slavery, you think in chains, getting whipped, you know, like in the old movies and in the books. All right, but those people back then knew their condition. But our people today don't, so who's worse off? 2, it says assumed appearance or mere semblance under the guise of friendship. These Edomites pretend to be our friends, all right? They're not. I want to show you something, if I can bring it up real quick. Hold on here. Let's see. I wish I had this. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, crap. Let's see. Hold on. All right, let's go to Jade. Allen. Sander. All right. Oh, whoa. The hell am I doing? Salaki, brain fart there. Let's see. This her. Yeah, this is what I want to play for you. Don't you think these Edomites from a young age are schooled on Jake? All right, listen to this.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
See? There you go. You best believe they know what's going on. You know, but that's the devil for you. And other nations know what's going on. Psalms 83. You know, they banded together to keep us from being a nation. All right, so let's go to that real quick. Because even I often make reference to a book I read years ago. It's called Rising Tide, the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 and How It Changed America. And in that book, it goes into the shit that this country has done, all right? If you ever get the book, just the first 80 or so pages is, going into a conflict between two engineers as how to handle the Mississippi River, all right? But it goes into how, what was his name? He exploited our people to win the presidency, Herbert Hoover, after the said flood, because he was, he was a secretary of, what was it? Anyway, that's not important, but, you get the book, you'll get to that, but all the things as prisoners, when we go into the 13th Amendment here, where a prison in, Mississippi in 1912, there was a flood, and they had the prisoners, Jakes, lay themselves down like human sandbags to keep the waters from going over the levee in order to preserve property. A lot of Jakes drowned. All right, this is the hatred that these devils have for us. All right, again, the book is called Rising Tide, the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 and How It Changed America. And nobody ever talks about that. You'll not hear that. And the reason I heard about it, because here in D.C., back in the late 90s, there was a storyteller from Mississippi. He was in his 90s, and he brought up the story. And a reporter here for the Washington Post was like, knowing the history, he was like, that doesn't sound right, because he was telling people on the mall down here that how blacks and whites work together. And this guy was like, no, they don't sound right. Come to find out, he was right. they went and rounded up Jakes at the point of a shotgun and made them work. All right. Again, the hatred. Let's go back to the article. Let's see. Here we go. It says, my hope is that we can get this information to attorneys, lawmakers, and on-the-ground activists and organizers so that we can strike down finally the constitutional provision of upholding slavery for persons convicted of crime. Abraham Lincoln, in his first inaugural address, said of the Corwin Amendment, I understand a proposed amendment to the Constitution, which amendment, however, I have not seen, has passed Congress, to the effect that the federal government shall never interfere with the domestic institutions of the states. Basically, it's just saying that the states can do whatever they like when you're convicted, all right, of a crime, especially a felony, including that of persons held to service slavery, holding such a provision to now be implied constitutional law. I have no objection to its being made express and irrevocable. As President Abraham Lincoln, who you are taught from the time you're in grade school to revere. He saved your people. He set you free, which is bullshit. All right? This provision clearly has racist roots in the slavery era, and we must abolish it immediately. Just weeks prior to the outbreak of the Civil War, Lincoln sent a letter to each state's governor transmitting the proposed amendment, noting that James Buchanan, who preceded Lincoln as president, had approved it. The Corwin Amendment was the second proposed 13th Amendment submitted to the states by Congress. Notice it said the Corwin Amendment was the second proposed 13th Amendment. All right. The full text of the proposed amendment reads as follows. From March 2nd, 1861. No amendment shall be made to the Constitution which will authorize or give to Congress the power to abolish or interfere within any state with the domestic institutions thereof, including that of persons held to labor or service by the laws of said state. Let's get some scriptures right here because these devils, wow, they all come together like we always say against Jake. All right. This is Psalms chapter 94, verse 20. It says, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. All right. But the Most High Yahweh is my defense, and my power is the rock of my refuge. Let's stay in Psalms. This is Psalms 83, verse 1. It says, Psalm of Asaph. Keep not thy silence, O Most High. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Most High. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Is that not crafty counsel? And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. If you needed more proof, some of you talking about, well, we're always talking about conspiracy. What am I reading? Is that a conspiracy? Look it up for yourself. They are confederate. Strong's H, 1285, Baruch, covenant, alliance, pledge amongst themselves between men, treaty alliance, league. They're in league with each other. All right? Agreement, pledge. All right? That's what they did. Let's go back. It says, I trace the history of the 13th back to 1777. It wasn't something they just thought up on the spot exception clause and all. That particular wording went through a number of phases. Salakia. That particular wording went through a number of phases as first northern and then southern states started using convict leasing. Lincoln was a proponent of the convict leasing system, just so for you people that still treat this man as a demigod. Let's look up that word. Proponent. One who argues in support of something. An advocate. Making proposals, proposing. One who makes a proposal, who lays down a proposition. All right? The first one hits the nail on the head. One who argues in support of something. An advocate. Lincoln was an advocate for this. All right? It says Lincoln was a proponent, just went into that word, he was an advocate of the convict leasing system and saw it as a restricted form of slavery that the state could exploit and the people would accept. He said as much clearly in his letter to Alexander Stephens just 4 months before the start of the Civil War. Alexander Hamilton Stephens was vice president of the Confederacy during the Civil War. That piece of shit, when I started the video, the one that was on the crutches with the Jake holding him up. It says, you think slavery is right. This is the caption. All right. You think slavery is right and ought to be extended, while we think it is wrong and ought to be restricted. That, I suppose, is the rub. All right. It says, letter to Alexander Stephens. This is from Abraham Lincoln, Springfield, Illinois, December 22nd, 1860. For your own eye only, Honorable A.H. Stephens, my dear sir, your obliging answer to my short note is just received, and for which please accept my thanks. I fully appreciate the present peril the country is in and the weight of responsibility on me. Do the people of the South really entertain fears that a Republican administration would, directly or indirectly, interfere with their slaves or with them about their slaves? If they do, I wish to assure you, as once a friend and still, I hope, not an enemy, that there is no cause for such fears. The South would be in no more danger in this respect than it was in the days of Washington. I suppose, however, this does not meet the case. You think slavery is right and ought to be extended, while we think it is wrong and ought to be restricted. That, I suppose, is the rub. It certainly is the only substantial difference between us. Yours very truly, Abraham Lincoln. Damn. Oh, the notorious prisoner. Oh, my goodness. Up until recently, this was the most violent prison in America. I'm saying recent, I'm saying, let's go, say, 20 years. It says these prisoners at Angola prison and in Louisiana, 1934. That's Leadbelly in the foreground, the blues/folk singer. It was a good movie back in, 73 or 75. Roger Mosley. He was in the original Magnum P.I. with Tom Selleck. He was his sidekick, the Jake that had the helicopter business. He played Leadbelly back in the 70s. It was a good movie. All right. Says, it was written to protect the practice of convict leasing, yet it remains in effect today. All right. It says, under the Constitution, all prisoners will continue to be slaves until the slavery clause is removed from the 13th Amendment. All right. So let's go down here and see what some of these... Wow, wouldn't you know? No comments. What the fuck? Wow. Damn. So here's the thing. You know, this is judgment on our people because we went off, all right? We decided to play the harlot. We turned from the Most High, Yahweh, all right? And this is a result of the curses that were put upon us. Let's go get Once again, I apologize for my voice. I just caught a bad cold here. Let's see. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, and I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 29. Actually, I started 28. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 28 says, "The Most High Yahweh shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness." And that's our people all into these various philosophies, going to your enemy's schools thinking that, I don't know what you're thinking, but somehow that you can agree, and this is nothing new, because when you go to the Maccabees, and even before in various captivities, a lot of Jakes decided to try to make their hell more comfortable, easier, and they would side with the enemy. They would take on the mindset of the enemy, all right? That was a big thing in the Maccabees. When you go to Maccabees, the first chapter, all right? Aligning themselves with the heathen, wow. It says, Deuteronomy 28:29 again, it says, "And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee." Not Turner, not Delmar Vesey, not Marcus Garvey, not Malcolm X, not Martin Luther King. No man will save us. All right? Toussaint Louverture. None of these people. None of them. All right? The Lord has come back. All right? Let's see. And that's basically it. It gave you the rundown. It's for all you people that thought we's free. And we've been trying to tell you all the time, no. It's an illusion. A very well-crafted illusion. All right? And of course, this is the Most High's doing overall. All right? Letting you know. Let's get another verse here. How we are blessed. In order to see this, this is Sirach 12 and 10, all right? And others can't. And this, unfortunately, our people are so trusting, all right, so forgiving. And these Edomites and these other nations, they exploit that, especially Esau, to his benefit. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10 says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away." This is what we see, and we're trying to communicate to our people. But they can't see it. That's because they've been blinded. All right, and you can read the rest of this, let's see. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to stop it there for time's sake. I didn't intend to go this long, but hey, that's the spirit. All right, so once again, maybe you'll believe it now that it's someone else other than Green Millstone trying to tell you. All right? It was a ruse. All right? And they've benefited. It became so wealthy. Again, slavery never went anywhere. It just changed form. So with that, I hope this is edifying to whomever sees it. Damn, what can you say? So with that, once again, call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Rekokodash, Once again, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. All right, salutations to the Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth out, honesty and sincerity, trying to wake up the hopefully elect. So with that, shalom, bod babal.